Welcome to another edition of the Willie Bragg Show. I'm your host, Willie Bragg. I'm going to say my quick hellos real quick here, and that's to Miguel and hey, Warren Extrabula, and Ed Heller says, hurry up, we ain't got all day. And he also said, kidding. Yes. And here's the new countdown. I'm just kidding about the countdown. Enough with the countdowns, right? Yeah. So anyway, before I get started, the music you heard today was called Thanks So Much. Mochadoma Post-Punk Beat Numb by Kita is the free music that I like to provide before the show starts. It's something new that I'm doing, to try to kind of keep things, different, so I know for something completely different, as John Cleese used to say on Monty Python's Flying Circus. So anyway, Scott Ritter. We know who Scott Ritter is. He's the former U.S. Marines intelligence officer that served under General Norman Schwarzkopf in Operation Desert Storm, 1990-1991. He's the former UN weapons inspector, the man that basically told the United States during the Clinton years and the early Bush-Cheney years that Iraq was complying and not having weapons of mass destruction, had the Clinton administration and the Bush-Cheney administration listened and taken the words and heeded the word of Scott Ritter, we would have probably seen 1 million innocent Iraqis still alive today. We would have probably seen several thousand U.S. troops still alive, an additional several thousand not with missing limbs and suffering from economic troubles because of what we do to our veterans. We pretend to care about veterans. It's great talking points, but then we send them to wars, and then we really do next to nothing for them other than just sheer platitudes about, we thank our veterans or whatever. And the best way to thank our veterans is never to take them to war. So that's kind of where I stand on that. Call me crazy. But anyway, suffice to say, you probably heard by now, on Monday, Scott Ritter was on his way at the airport to St. Petersburg, Russia, to attend the International Economic Forum. And before he was able to take off, the U.S. government came in. People presume, I think it was the U.S. Department of Justice, I guess, came in and seized his U.S. passport. And his luggage was also seized. I guess it was returned to him. And he's been banned from traveling abroad. He cannot go overseas. He's forbidden from traveling outside the U.S. So anyway, probably a better way to give you a better scoop than what I just gave is Nick Cruz from Revolutionary Blackout Network mentions that. I'll go ahead and play that clip about the Biden administration targeting Scott Ritter. So let's go and take it away. Take it away, Nick Cruz.
The State Department officially seized the passport of Scott Ritter and prevented him from attending an economic forum in Russia. Scott Ritter is a former weapons inspector who since gained a large following as a geopolitical analyst who is critical of the United States empire in their endless war. Because of his critical coverage, the Biden administration is now seeking to restrict his movement. Ask yourself this question: why is the United States State Department so concerned with Americans and people in the West receiving the Russian perspective? Scott Ritter wasn't the only one. There was many journalists that was prevented from traveling to Moscow by the U.S. State Department. Maybe because if they did, they would realize that everything they was told about the Ukraine war was bullshit. Putin has no plans to invade Europe, the same way everything they tell you about Hamas hating Jews is bullshit. Question: what laws did Scott Ritter break? There's no travel ban to Russia. There's no arrest warrants that was made, and no explanation given about why his passport was seized. We are governed by a rogue administration that feels like they can do whatever they want, revoke the rights of whoever they want. If the government can take the rights away, they're not rights. They're just temporary allowances.
Just when these American citizens needed their rights the most, their government took them away. And rights aren't rights if someone can take them away. They're privileges. That's all we've ever had in this country is a bill of temporary privileges. And if you read the news even badly, you know that every year the list gets shorter and shorter and shorter. You know,
And as I said, you can see what happened. As the State Department seized his passport and forbade him from traveling. Now, there's a mystery about Judge Napoliano, and I keep messing his name up. I apologize. And basically, it's this: his passport was not seized. I found this out this afternoon on the Jimmy Dore Show because Scott Ritter was on the Jimmy Dore Show explaining the situation. He called the judge, told him, advised him not to go with him to Russia, and it was probably a good thing because probably the same thing would have happened, maybe, perhaps. So what happened? So he probably saved the Judge Napoliano a lot of trouble with it, being associated on that particular day, going to Russia with Scott Ritter. Now, I did not know this, but I figured that travel to Russia was probably forbidden. But apparently it is not. So people can go to Russia. Well, I mean, we have some friends of the show that do live in Russia, and there's three people. There's three people right now that the audience and myself know, not personally, but we maybe some personally, but that we know in this space that lives in Russia. But it's not against the law in the way that it was against the law during the Bush years to travel to Cuba, where if you go and travel to Cuba, you'd be fined $7,500. And that was a Bush administration doing an extra just an extra ban and extra punishing of those that try to do work and solidarity work with Cuba, for example. So, and that's another issue in itself, and that shit needs to stop. Obama did relax some of that bullshit during his presidency by the end, and Trump, unfortunately, brought back some of those measures. So, but getting back to Scott Ritter, as I said, with Scott Ritter, there's a reason for this. I mean, Scott Ritter, as I said, when he became a UN weapons inspector, he went and he told the truth about Iraq not having weapons of mass destruction. And frankly, the United States did not want to hear this. It was not what they wanted to hear. They did not want to hear this. They wanted to hear other things. They wanted to hear that Saddam Hussein was producing weapons of mass destruction. With not trying to go too much into detail, because whenever the subject of Scott Ritter comes along, there's a lot of character assassination that takes place when it comes to him, because he's been accused. He's been accused. He's been accused. He's been accused of. 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 he's considered a sexual predator, and I'm not going to go into it. He discussed it further in length on the Jimmy Dore Show, and frankly, I do believe his side of the story. So, and I do not believe what the U.S. government did to him. I think he was set up, and make no apologies about that. I met Scott Ritter when I was in D.C. at Rage Against the War Machine, and I am a pretty good judge of character, and I do not think he's the evil man that people who would otherwise be sympathetic to him, they sort of have, they try to kind of stay away from him because of the accusations against him and all that. I do not believe these accusations. So I want to get that out of the way when it comes to Scott Ritter. And he's been a guest on the show, by the way, last year. Getting back to what I was saying, being a truth teller will get you in trouble, you know. And they have been trying to make trouble for Scott Ritter. So I kind of jokingly said to some folks in the past that he, you know, if this keeps up, he'll probably become he'll become America's Julian Assange pretty soon. Because when you're a truth teller, the U.S. have a problem with that. And he's very critical of the NATO-U.S. police action in going on in the Ukraine, and he's told the truth about what was going on between Russia, the Ukraine, and where the U.S. has been involved. And because of these things, it bothers the powers that be. It bothers the neocons. It bothers the resistance liberals. It bothers the establishment. It bothers the mainstream corporate narratives. It goes right down to even bothering defense contractors because they need a crisis to such as an unstable world, and telling the truth can jeopardize their profits. So it comes right down to the profit motive as well. So you can see what happens when you go after truth tellers and all of that. Right now, I mean, when you think about it, America calls itself a free country, and my question is, how can you be a free country when you're letting an Australian man, charging him under the Espionage Act, letting him rot in prison, hoping that he dies, loses his will to live, and you have another man that had to flee the country, a man that believed in free speech, by the way, by the name of Snowden. The other man I was talking about previously is Julian Assange. And that's the thing right there. America claims to be a free country. Would not be doing things like this to Julian Assange. Would not be doing things like this to Ed Snowden. And would not be doing things like this to Scott Ritter, and to numerous others as well. And so, what's going on right here, as I said, it is a travesty of justice. Where's the moral clarity when Scott Ritter, not just Scott Ritter, but Scott Ritter, along with Chris Hedges and Jimmy Dore, Aaron Matei, Anya Parampil, Glenn Greenwald, Rand Paul, although I don't really care for her that much anymore, still, she shouldn't be on that list either. Tulsi Gabbard and numerous others on that kill list that the Ukraine sponsor. The same kill list that's after Roger Waters of Pink Floyd, after Noam Chomsky. Well, they technically, believe it or not, were after Henry Kissinger of all people. Even Henry Kissinger was on on that list. Where's the moral clarity of this U.S. government when you could tolerate a country sponsoring a list like this, giving a country that sponsors a list like this hundreds of millions of dollars, but you go after a person trying to work for peace, trying to prevent World War III? I see no moral. I see a strong absence of moral clarity right there. So anyway, this is, I believe, from the year 1998. Give me a moment here. This is then Senator Joe Biden of Pennsylvania, trying to act like, basically trying to humiliate Scott Ritter. So we'll go ahead and play that. And all the shitloads wonder why I don't like Genocide Joe. Well, here you'll see.
I believe these really reflect his views.
No, sir, I do not.
My time is up. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Senator Biden.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I envy your position. I sincerely do. I envy the ability to have such clarity on this issue. Let me ask you a question. Do you think you should be the one to be able to decide when to pull the trigger?
No, sir.
Isn't that what this is about? If you adopt the position that any time you are denied, your particular, and there's 4 groups out there, inspectors, you're the group you headed, anytime you are denied, that ipso facto requires the United States and the Security Council to act on what they said they would do, which is to use whatever means necessary to take on Saddam Hussein so you can get into that particular facility. Is that not correct? Is that not your position?
Mr. Senator, I have a job to do, or I had a job to do, and that was to disarm Iraq in accordance with the provisions of relevant resolutions.
With all due respect, I'm not trying to be confrontational. I'm trying to get this as clear as I can. I really mean this now. You have an absolute logic. You put together a very tight syllogism here. You have indicated that your job is to disarm. The only way you can disarm is to have access. The only way you can have access is either with permission on the part of Iraq, or if denied, forced access, right?
Compelled access.
Compelled. Well, okay. Compelled. You sound like the lawyer and I sound like the military guy. I mean, compelled, where I come from, when my old man said you're compelled, it meant I was forced. I mean, it was a real simple proposition. It wasn't much to debate. Now, there is a clear logic to that. And that's what I mean when I say I respect your position. But that means that whenever you choose a target that warrants inspection and you are denied, that ipso facto, at that moment, the only way your position can be satisfied or sustained is if the UN Security Council or the United States, acting unilaterally, uses force to guarantee access. Is not that true?
Yes, sir.
Now, that means that you get to choose the time and place when we would use force, if we use force.
No, sir.
Of course you do. If you choose the site and it's denied.
And we coordinate with the member states to include the United States.
Exactly.
And prior to us going in, we had their agreement that this indeed is an inspection worth doing.
Okay, inspection worth doing. Everybody's agreed it's worth doing, and it gets stopped.
Yes, sir.
At that moment, we're an automatic pilot as far as you're concerned. Period. No ifs, ands, or buts. Now, I respect that. But now, it seems to me the Secretary of State might have a slightly different problem. Secretary of State might be sitting there and saying, now look over there on that side. Now, I remember so-and-so and so-and-so and so-and-so, and the 12 people on this side, they're all the ones that said they didn't want to use force. Now, I'm going to have to go tell the president now that we should, or Secretary Cohen, unleash whatever it takes to get done. And our military assessment is the same as the majors. The majors' assessment is, privately held but publicly acknowledged later, that airstrikes alone aren't going to do this. Saddam's not going to cave on this. So now here's the deal. I recommended the president have at it and let the chips fall where they may. A reasonable position for the Secretary of Defense, the Secretary of State to take. But I respectfully suggest, Major, they have a responsibility slightly above your pay grade. Slightly above your pay grade. To decide whether or not to take the nation to war alone, or to take the nation to war partway, or to take the nation to war halfway. That's a real tough decision. That's why they get paid the big bucks. That's why they get the limos and you don't.
What a douchebag Joe Biden is.
I mean this sincerely. I'm not trying to be flip, because I think, and that's why I said at the outset, the reason why I'm glad you did what you did, we should come to our milk. we should make a decision. But in terms of whether the Secretary of State has no more to consider than you do as the arms inspector. You didn't get in, didn't get my job done, get me in. Period. You made the deal, right? That's the deal. A deal's a deal. Get me in. Scott Ritter, I'm ready to go. It's not how it works. Now, maybe it should work that way. But wouldn't you acknowledge that if you were President of the United States or the Secretary of State, you'd sit there and say, now, okay, old Scotty boy didn't get in. We said he should get in. We want him to get in. It's important that he does get in. They're not going to let him in. So what are we going to do now? We know that France and Russia aren't going to be with us. We're quite confident China's not. We've already run those traps. They're not there. We're not sure where the United States Senate is, but have at it, boys. Go get them. And by the way, Scott and the boys say air power is not enough. I think it's a legitimate debate, Scott, Major. I think it's a legitimate debate. But I don't think we should be putting it in the context of you have somebody up there at stake saying, look, how can we weasel out of this agreement? We want to let this guy out there hanging. We're not this. It's a very practical political decision. Same kind of decision General Powell made. Same kind of decision President Bush made. Every president, every Secretary of State has to do it. Like I said, they get paid more than you. Their job's a hell of a lot more complicated than yours. They may have made the wrong decision, and you brought it to light. We should address it. We should say straight up where we are, and we should do it. And for that, I thank you. But it's above your pay grade. I yield for it.
Senator Warner.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Major, you've leveled one of the most serious indictments against the top-level national security team of this country that has ever been done in Kentucky.
Yep. These are our leaders. These are our leaders these are leaders that seize his passport. These are our leaders that responsible for putting him in prison, setting him up on bogus charges. Somebody who tells the truth, you end up getting in hot water. And how smug Senator Biden was about pay grades, higher pay grades. Like, these people are better than he is. How I hate the two-party system, but I'll use that tribal dribble jargon and phrase for a moment. How Republican of Joe Biden to say these things. Seriously. Yes. What is lying Joe trying to weasel around in this argument? We're talking about a man who claimed he got arrested with Nelson Mandela in South Africa. The man who calls the inner city a concrete jungle, who was opposed to busing. So, I mean, this is what I'm talking about, He's pretending that UN weapons inspectors don't have to run stuff off by the members before acting on inspections. We're dealing with Joe Biden. We're dealing with, this is before his dementia even kicked in. So he wasn't even the sharpest bulb on a Christmas tree. So even back then. But, here's the thing. Another thing I want to point out is, even though I'm not sure if he was convicted of a felony, but I know he went on trial, and my memory's fuzzy. But this guy almost became a U.S. Senator from Virginia. And I know he never did jail time. And Oliver North is definitely, in my eyes, and I think I'm correct to say this, a war criminal. What he did under the Reagan administration, trading arms for hostages. Remember Iran-Contra? Now, I'm going to do a video on the Trump trial that I don't really want to do because it bores the shit out of me. I'm going to do it either tomorrow or Friday or Saturday. One of the reasons I kept delaying it because it bores me, but I am kind of compelled to comment on it. So I will be commenting on it. But, and there's a lot to be said about Trump. I neither suffer from Trump derangement syndrome hate nor Trump derangement syndrome worship. I neither hate nor love the man. And I'm folded by both sides for having that position. He's just there. But he's committed less crimes than people like Ronald Reagan and George Herbert Walker Bush and Oliver North. He's committed less crimes than people like George W. Bush and Dick Cheney and John Bolton and people like that. And they walk around free. And someone like Scott Ritter, goes to prison on what I think are bogus charges. The justice that I see in the United States is in such sorts of lie. And I just wanted to just comment on that as well. I'm just beside myself sometimes. So Sigmund Freud says, free Scott. I agree. Free Scott Ritter. Okay. Let's see what else we have here. Daniel Very Sports Highlight says, happy everyone. Happy Wednesday. Happy Wednesday to you, sir. Let's see. Oh, I don't recall North. Ollie, I don't recall North. Oh, I remember Reagan said, I don't recall. Just like Joe Biden, he also suffered from dementia. I think Ronald Reagan died 20 years ago today. My memory serves me correct. So, but anyhow, there you have it. I think he's a good man, Scott Ritter, that got railroaded and keeps getting railroaded by the U.S. government because he's trying to stop the madness of people in our State Department, the madness of people who serves in Congress, the madness of people, regardless of the party who occupies the White House at the moment, at whatever moment rather, and stop the madness of people promoting these narratives in the mainstream media. And when I say mainstream media, it doesn't matter if that mainstream media is called CNN or MSNBC or ABC, CBS, NBC, or if it's called Fox News or Newsmax or One American News Network. It matters not to me. It's all corporate news. It's all corporate news, and they're all beholden to the military-industrial complex and to the State Department and to their base on both sides. To the duopoly that has an interest in this shit. So that's where I stand. And anyway, if you like what you heard, please press like and comment. Comment any ways you disagree with what I have to say. Feel free to share the content on this channel. As the First Amendment absolutist, it's my duty to inform you to create your own platform and utilize it because we are, in fact, the muckrakers of our time. Subscribe to the Willie Bragg Show here on YouTube. Follow me on Twitch and all of the other platforms. You will hopefully see it pretty shortly when I put it down on the description box below. Also, please reject corporate media. Free Palestine. Free Julian Assange. Free Scott Ritter, too, by the way. And free healthcare for all. And free speech, regardless, for all as well. Y'all take care. I will see y'all next time. Bye-bye.